As much as I would
Hi,
like to
Felicia.
think that they're being progressive with this whole plant-based meat is kosher, I don't think you can say that. That's BS. You can't go back in time and change the rules on something that didn't even exist.
Air Bud rules, Brian. It doesn't say you cannot eat plant-based meat. Therefore, you can eat plant-based meat.
You got me there, you slimy. All right. Anyways, throw this, make this little teaser for the intro, and I'm
Sounds good.
out.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 39 of 2023. I'm Chris Louie, and happy birthday to you. 9 of the top 10 birthdays occur in this 2-week period of September. You can thank Christmas and New Year's for that one. With me, I have my co-host Duke Silver, who's still rocking the iPhone 14.
All I hear is that people are using protection when knocking boots on February 14th. And and to go back to last week where Chris called me out for being in last place in my fantasy football league, this douchebag is actually doing fantasy football as well. And he too was tied with me for last place last week. But now we are tied for 7th place after pulling out a dub.
You guys in the same league? What's going on here?
No, we're
Why do
not.
I feel left out.
Different
Oh.
league. We're in two different leagues. We're both on
You guys pick
Yahoo.
the same. Did you guys pick the same teams?
No, I don't think we
no.
did.
Yeah, I don't. Not even the same teams, be same players, but no.
Same players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He only scored like 113 points. I had like 143 on an off day. So, just saying.
Hey, it's just like Vin Diesel said, it don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile, winning's winning. And I won this week. It's all that matters.
I don't know if it was Vin Diesel. I think it was his character, not his actual persona.
Dominic Toretto.
Yes, there you go. That's forgivable.
And we have Glenn Medina, responsible for another recording reschedule that scared away one of our guests.
Can't help it. You can't stand in the way of money. Even podcasts can't do that unless we start making money on this podcast. So if you're out there, we're still looking for sponsors.
You heard it here. If our podcast makes Glenn more money than his day job, then he could finally quit his day job and devote his time to the podcast.
But will his audio work every single time is the real question.
I'll have more time to work on it, but no guarantees it'll work.
That's right.
Speaking of things that
Darn
are just stupid and don't work, do you see that Donald Trump Jr.'s Twitter account got stolen or hacked today?
Yeah, it did.
That is
Oh
crazy.
my god.
That was hilarious, some of the tweets that were coming out.
Did he
The
not
fact
get
Very
an MFA
offensive,
on that?
but hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know what. I think Twitter or X. I think everything's MFA by default nowadays. So I have no idea. He got fished somehow. My favorite part was I think Eric Trump was commenting on it. He's like, "I hope my brother doesn't get it back because this is hilarious."
It's funnier than the real Don Jr. tweeting.
Yeah.
He's got some zingers on there for sure, but yeah, the parody one was hilarious.
Oh, was it a parody account or was his account actually stolen?
No, it was stolen. I should
Okay.
say
Okay.
the
I'm
stolen
gonna be coming out
content.
here, my fake news if it's not right. So.
It could be just like if you remember when Jack Dorsey's still on Twitter and there was some disgruntled employee about to leave and he suspended Donald Trump on his last day of work. This is before he got the permaban under Jack Dorsey. So it could be an insider threat as well.
Well, that permaban wasn't actually permanent because he's back.
It's true, yeah. He was permabanned under Jack Dorsey and then Elon brought him back.
The old, yeah. And he's only posted once since
Yeah.
being uncut.
Well, how's his other platform doing? Does he have any of the amount of followers that he had when he was with Twitter?
Truth Social, I don't think it does. It's definitely not going to be as big as his following on X, but he's got to use his own platform, so that makes sense that he's posting over there exclusively.
According to this, he only has 6.38 million followers. And on X, I think he had like 20 million. I don't know. Maybe more.
Yeah,
Let's see.
there's a lot more.
Well, I take it probably 50% don't use Truth Social, right? More than 50%
Oh my
don't use
God.
Truth or Social.
All right. Let's guess, guys. How many followers do you think Trump actually has on X?
80 million.
What do you think,
15.
Glenn?
15. Or no, 25. 25.
87.3 million.
Oh,
Really?
That's pretty close.
Yeah, you were actually
That's a
really
lot.
close. Yeah. That's what she
pretty
said.
big. Huh.
That's
Side
what she
note,
said.
whatever happened to Instagram Threads? Remember that was the fastest app to 100 million users in like 3 days, and literally nobody talks about it anymore. I haven't heard anybody talk about it since the launch.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it fell off pretty quick. I think there was a lot of issues with the privacy around it too. It was like even more pervasive than Instagram regular. I could be wrong.
It was completely blocked from the EU because it can't pass the GDPR smell test.
That's a low bar too.
Yeah. Even Threads can't pass it. Enough of that. As you can tell, no guests this week. We'll try and get someone else on soon. Combined, we have decades of information security experience and are here not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 3 awesome stories for this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. We probably only have time for 3 stories. Our first one is a doozy. This week, we're going to talk about the great 2023 siege of Las Vegas, Nevada, Apple and Android adding more privacy controls, and close with 2 potential bonus topics if we get to them.
I'm so excited.
For our first topic, this will be our ransomware story of the week that Brian wanted to cover last week. We now have more details about what happened, so I hope it makes for a good discussion. Unless you've been hiding under a rock for the last 2 weeks, by now you should have heard about the hotel group MGM getting hacked. MGM owns several properties in Las Vegas, including their flagship MGM Hotel, the Aria, Mandalay Bay, Luxor, Bellagio, Cosmopolitan, and Excalibur, to name a few. Once they got hit, everything, and I do mean everything, ground to a halt. Automated check-in and checkout systems stopped working, slot machines stopped working, ATMs could not spit out cash, digital room keys would not unlock guest doors, and lines to get to the front desk spiraled out of control. MGM's main website was taken down, and reservations had to be made by phone. Porters were writing down names and email addresses to send electronic receipts later on. Executives resorted to using their personal email accounts to communicate because corporate email was completely taken offline. In short, MGM was plunged back into the Stone Age. The Alpha V, also known as Black Cat Ransomware as a Service Group, is believed to be behind the attack, although several media outlets also threw out the name of the Scattered Spider crew. The MGM Las Vegas Strip properties generate over $13 million per day in revenue from hotel rooms and casinos alone.
So on top of the reign of evil that poured on MGM, I also heard that like in the rooms, like in some of the hotels where it was like heavily automated, you couldn't even turn on the lights or turn the lights off or even be able to open up the blinds because it was all controlled. It was like all IoT stuff as well.
I remember that, and when we stayed at the Aria, it must have been 12 or 13 years ago by now, and that's correct. You have a little tablet in your room, like a little iPad, and you say, click a button, open blinds, click a button, turn on lights, and if that's knocked offline, you're right. There's no manual override.
Well, nowadays when you walk in the room, as soon as you walk in the room, like the TV turns on. Welcome, Mr. Deech. We've been expecting you. The lights turn on. The blinds open. It's pretty rad. But yeah, that's terrifying. I think I wonder how much the ransomware crew actually wanted to pay or to get paid out. And also, I wonder, were they looking at it in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Doge? What do you think?
They wanted it in chips.
Gaming chips.
Gaming chips. Totino's
Excalibur
pizza
prize
rolls.
tickets.
Yeah. They just want to watch Blue Man Crew. That's all they want to do. So, tickets to Blue
Yeah,
Man
I just wanted front row seats. They wanted the behind the scenes meet and greet pass. And I
That's
said,
right.
yeah, just give us that and we'll make your life a lot easier.
So
I wonder,
took
go ahead.
they took a different approach, right, than Caesars, because Caesars actually paid it out, right?
Yeah, Caesars took the whole USA approach. Is MGM took the USA approach, which is we don't negotiate with terrorists. So I think they are not going to pay out Bitcoin. Whereas Caesars kind of, I hate to say it, but they folded like a cheap chair, right? They're just like, yeah, we're all in with 12 coconuts, and then just called it and paid the ransom.
But they were
I don't
back
know
up
if that's
and
still
running
accurate,
right away, right?
Brian. We did just pay $6 or $5 billion to Iran to get a few of our citizens back. Do we really not negotiate with terrorists anymore?
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up.
Only for WNBA players. That's all. So.
Oh boy, we're really painting ourselves into a corner here, boys.
Yes, the follow up to this is Caesars Entertainment, another big property owner in Las Vegas. So they own, of course, Caesars Palace, Harrah's, Link, Rio, Flamingo, Planet Hollywood, Horseshoe, and Paris. They also disclosed that they were a victim of a ransomware attack thought to be perpetuated by the same group that hit MGM, but their names stayed out of the news until very recently because they did pay the $15 million ransom that the ransomware group was requesting.
I heard it was even higher than that. I thought it was in the 30 million. No?
Yeah, I thought it was 30.
They asked for 30, and like a true used car sales negotiation, Caesars said 15, take it or leave it, and they took it.
Shoot. So who do you think makes more money year over year? Is it MGM or is it Caesars? I think MGM's like 31 billion a year, right?
So, I mean, 13 million a day times 365. You do the math. They're both publicly traded companies, and we can look up their 10Ks.
So I watched the kind of like the iteration, the creation, on this, watching YouTube, of course, right? That MGM and Caesars are these two conglomerate nows, and how they ended up getting there based off of their acquisitions and mergers and whatnot. What I didn't know was, did you know that they sold off the property is different than the gaming side itself, right? So there's the entertainment side, and then there's the kind of like a REIT of the property side. I didn't know this, the real side, but the owning factor or the owning company between Caesars and MGM is a company called Vici, right? And Vici was owned by MGM. So Vici now owns pretty much close to 100% of everything down there, even though there's two gaming companies, right? The two entertainment companies, Caesars and MGM. It was a pretty interesting video watch.
I'm sure it was like a shortcut to save some money on taxes or something.
Yeah, that's what they said. So because they separated out, because it was a real estate investment trust, which is the smartest thing ever. I was like, wow, I gotta get in on this, right? Is the taxes on that were different than as taking on the, I guess the all the losses or the gambling
revenues.
The gambling revenues, yeah.
Spit it out.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, I got it. So,
I did Google real estate investment trust. As long as they distribute, I think it's like 90% of their profits back to the shareholders in the form of dividends, then they're hugely tax advantaged.
So apparently, MGM is 13 billion a year, not 30, 13, and Caesars is 11 billion. So I guess you have to ask the big question here, like, why did Caesars pay the ransom and MGM did not? Do you think it came down to this is really, really bad? Do you think it was long-term damages? Do you think they just had really robust cybersecurity insurance? They're like, whatever, like this is what we pay for?
If the Alpha V ransomware group is to be believed, they actually put out a statement. So the ransomware group that owned MGM put out a statement, and they said, we're in their systems, we've stolen their data, we're trying to get in contact with them. No one's reached out to us. They know how to get a hold of us, but they're not. It could be that MGM, if they are to believe, it could be that they either didn't want to or didn't know how to get in contact with them to negotiate a ransom, or they just did the right thing, what the FBI tells you to do. Don't negotiate with a terrorist. Don't pay a ransom. And they suffered as a result of that.
You got to wonder though, like why not? Like why do you not pay the ransom, right? You have two of the biggest casinos on the Strip. One elected to do it, and the other one did not. I have to wonder why.
Right, yeah, because Alfie said that they were in their system. They had not encrypted anything at this point. So I believe Caesars, it was the same thing. The ransomware group got into Caesars, siphoned out all their data, all their players, all their PII, and then they reach out to Caesars like, hey, if you don't pay us, we're going to encrypt your systems and release the state. And Caesars like, no, we'll give you the money. Because for MGM, Alfie was in their systems. They tried to negotiate, they got nowhere, and then all of a sudden they started encrypting all their VMware ESX servers. I think they were encrypted like 100 or 1,000 servers, just try to get their attention because no one was talking to them.
Do you think that all initiated was that attack? Did that happen a long time ago, or was it from Black Hat? Any association to that? Like,
I was going to ask that same question, right? And I think Chris sent out like a TikTok of someone saying, hey, maybe it was DEF CON this year. I think if it happened a long time ago, at least 6 months, if not longer. I think they've been bouncing around in there having a good time, owning everything. And the fact that they got through to 2 massive hotels blows my mind.
A very smooth brain individual on TikTok said, yeah, DEF CON had this conference here, and a month later, 2 casinos get massively hacked. Coincidence? Like, yeah, you don't know anything about security if you think those two are even remotely related.
So I wonder if like Caesars is this like old school mafia. Like, we'll pay them, but we got guys. We'll get our money back. You know what I'm saying?
They're about to get vanned somewhere.
Yeah. Like, how do they pay? Did they pay in crypto? I would assume, right? Like that's.
It would have to be. Yeah, you don't wire $15 million to a bank in Russia. No way.
Could you imagine like Joe Pesci showing up somewhere?
Yeah, I heard you got my Bitcoin.
Yeah, starts hitting him over the head with the telephone. You think I'm funny now? Like, haha, funny?
What are you laughing at? What are you laughing? What do you think is funny? Oh my.
So what coin washing service do you think the Alpha V team is going to use? Because, like, you know, follow the money. Someone's going to get caught eventually. And how long?
Probably got to be Tornado. I mean, Tornado's sanctioned by the U.S., but if you're in Russia or North Korea, who cares if they're sanctioned? They'll use, like, Tornado or somebody like that. Follow the money.
So, what do you think? What's the likelihood of anyone actually ever getting caught from this? I think they're going to get out scot-free.
It depends. It really does depend. If it was like Lapsus, like they caught the kids from Lapsus just because they were in like Brazil and the UK. They were in countries that cooperate with U.S. law enforcement. But if you're in Russia, forget about it. You'll have to vacation at the Black Sea. You can't take that summer trip to Thailand unless you want to get yanked. And
so you think it's possible to identify them now? Whether it comes down to extradition is your point. So I don't know if they're actually going to catch them.
I've read some
or at least
reports
identify.
that they believe that it's very similar to Lapsus. It's a group of like 18 to 20-year-old kids basically that did this.
Good for them, man. You know, social engineering gurus, right? Like that's a speculation of the word on the street, right? It was. So this is the next thing. So if it was like, hey, I'm locked out of my account, password reset, blah blah blah, and you know, and I lost my phone too, so there's no MFA, and so you go through there and do it. It makes you wonder: does the Caesars and MGMs use the same outsource help desk company? If they do, I have no idea.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. It was the same company. I think it shows a shift in social engineering tactics because phishing pages like this, it used to come in exclusively through email or some kind of web page, but maybe email filters and web security has gotten so good that they just have to fall back to old-fashioned call up the help desk and have a crying baby in the background or the sound of a crying baby in the background and beg someone to reset your password and MFA code.
How many people do you think are going to lose their jobs because of this?
Somebody will have to fall on their sword. I'm hoping it's not the CISO. Well, it's yes and no on the CISO. Like, it's an easy scapegoat, but also, you know, how is it that one compromised account from a help desk was able to take down your entire network? There's a little bit of culpability there, I would say as well.
wasn't like it was an Apache Struts vulnerability that was left like wide open and going on for decades, right? But
it's worse. It was a social attack. It just showed how easy it was to get in socially.
So I heard that there is a mining company that is the exact same attack as well.
Social engineering someone's account, then move laterally.
Over. Yep. And my brother-in-law, like he was he works in the mines, right? Like I think he works in like the acid plant or something like that. And even he was like, yeah, nothing worked. We just sat around for like 10 days. Like they're like everything was just offline.
Yeah, that's sort of another theme that I think is coming from this, and not just this, but from other cyber attacks. So there's a bit of convergence going on that as the internet gets bigger, the world gets smaller, that somebody on the other side of the planet most likely was able to basically shut down a good portion of a city just from their computer. It's crazy how that's even possible, but it's, it is actually partially our fault too, that in the name of automation and cost cutting and convenience, that I remember maybe it was last year at Black Hat or this year at Black Hat, I was counting the number of people I actually had to talk to from the time I left my house to the time I got into my hotel room. And it gets less and less every year because I call an Uber on my phone. I don't have to talk to anybody. I check in with to the plane using my boarding pass on my mobile app. I don't talk to anybody. I call an Uber to the hotel. I don't talk to anybody. I check in myself through a kiosk at the hotel. I don't talk to anybody. I get a digital key on my phone and I just walk into my room. It's that automation and convenience.
And then you clone it with your Flipper Zero.
Exactly. But the second that anything in that chain there, any of those companies gets taken down, Uber, the hotel, then you're plunged back to the Stone Age, and all of a sudden you can't close your blinds.
I'll be honest, I'm a little different. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think both of you guys have converted a lot of your stuff. I think, Chris, with your remodel, you're doing a lot of that automation stuff. I'm just like, hey, you know what? It's just not, for me, it's not worth the extra cost or the extra hassle. It's just something else it's going to break in my house. And I don't want to manage that kind of stuff.
So I did think of that. So for my smart house, the switches I got, they can fall back to manual control. So they have the option to be smart, but just in case something goes wrong, you have to have, like at home, you have Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi has to have 100% uptime. You can always fall back on manual control.
Is it truly manual, or do you have to, will it actually control the manual as well? Like if it doesn't allow it to fail back, right?
It'll work even if the network's down. That was just the main requirement. It has to be able to still function even if the network's down.
Or what about if it's been attacked though? It's just blinking like crazy.
They just unplug everything.
What's wild about this is Zero Trust has been around for like 20 years, but it was just like a buzzword back in the day. And so now it's picking up momentum again. And, I hate to say I was right. VPNs, for all the things that they are, it just allows people to, it's a network overlay. Allows that bad guy or girl or person or Apache helicopter to come in here and bounce around the network like a damn field mouse, just leaving a path of destruction, which is what we saw here. If there was ever a great use case for Zero Trust or a story behind it, right there. And I know it's not perfect, right? Once you compromise identity, you're having problems. But if you start with Zero Trust, you keep users off the network, and then you even throw some deception in there, I think that this could have been picked off pretty easily. I could be wrong,
but even with a compromised credential, though, how does that happen? You have a credential, you have access at that point. I get there's other layers, right?
Yeah. Okay, so you get access, and just because you have, are we talking about VPN or Zero Trust?
Just credentials in general. If you have the keys to log in,
with either, we have a model. It's called Assume Breach model. Assume the bad guys in your network. Now, how do I limit the blast radius? Let's say my IT staff gets their account compromised. Well, they should only be able to access IT related help desk stuff. They should not be able to access the finance servers. They should not be able to access the door locks, things like that.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that with those stolen credentials, somebody, when they connected, most likely through VPN, right, they did a port scan and they were looking around and they found out there was Active Directory or maybe application 1. And so if they thought if there's an application 1, there must be an application 2, right? And so they went over there and banged the door of that. In Zero Trust, there is no application 2. There is no Nmap, right? Like that doesn't exist. And if they would go around, like sure enough, they're I'm confident that this server is on the 10 network. I'm going to start going to every 10.10.10.1, right? Like I'm just going to hit those gateways up, see if I can find a router interface or a firewall interface. Again, that's just where deception comes into place. Like if you have no business talking that stuff, then throw you in deception or, a decoy, right? Pick off that user, and then you find out that you have this compromised credential a long time ago. And I bet you, I'm 100% sure. I think when the smoke settles, these people were probably in the networks for at least 180 days, if not more. And that's only because they made their presence known. They were probably in there. Like, think about it. Like, if you breach someone's network, how long is it going to take you to make sure you have multiple beachheads back in, 2, multiple accounts, 3, multiple administrative accounts, 4, mapping out the entire network and finding out where all the keys of the kingdom and the sensitive things, the admin network, how long is that really going to take you? That's not just a couple of hours worth of work. I think it's a lot more than that.
That's interesting you say that, because I think, at least what the press is reporting now, is this was a relatively recent thing, that they got in there, their network was so flat that they were able to just perpetuate this attack. Well, there's that piece of it too, that the network was so flat that it just spread like wildfire. The other side of that is what Alf V was saying, is like we compromised their Okta servers, their Active Directory sync servers up to Okta, and they said as a result of that, they had to take identity offline. When you take identity offline, well, you can't get to anything because identity is the center of everything now, and that's what caused the massive disruption, was MGM themselves yanking cords, pulling the plug, and that's what plunged them back into the Stone Age. They were so hesitant and reluctant to bring anything back online until they were 100% sure that they had evicted these bad guys out of their network.
So are they even out? That's a real question. I don't even know.
Is anybody ever truly out until you throw all your hard work through a shredder and buy new stuff? There's really no guarantee that you've kicked them out of the network.
All I know is I think, like, as this came out, I'm sure there was a lot of people on LinkedIn that's like, I work for a cybersecurity company. Oh yeah,
rubbing their hands together, coming up behind the tree meme.
like a little, that's my favorite thing about flies. When you zoom in on them, it looks like they're little villains, always like rubbing their little fingers together.
That's just downright mean. Ambulance chasers. Chasers. Yeah.
I wrote down in my notes here, SANS, they also got breached a long time ago. That kind of raised security awareness. And then 13 versus 11, so that must have been the billion stuff, the 180 days, Zero Trust. And then I just have conservative leaning. I'm like, why did I write conservative leaning on this topic? And then I realized you guys were talking about Uber. And one of my favorite things to do on Uber now is under the preferences of like conversation, I like to say, interested in conversation or happy to conversate, and then keep the air cool, and then just talk with people. And my favorite thing about anybody that is not originally from the United States, very conservative leaning people. You'd be so surprised.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I thought conservatively, because I have here in my notes too about the Las Vegas Sands attack. So that was 2014. So that was a good 9 years ago. So in 9 years, Las Vegas never learned, don't have flat networks. They haven't implemented Zero Trust over the last 9 years. It's Las Vegas Sands all over again. This exact same thing happened in 2014 when their CEO Sheldon Adelson said some pro-Israel negative Iran things at a conference, and then Iran got mad and basically did the exact same thing that they did to MGM. They got in there, messed everything up, wiped out their systems, and then Las Vegas Sands was down for a while. And when all was said and done in 2014, they caused $40 million in damages. So I'm sure MGM's going to be a lot more than that.
Do you remember what they did to the Las Vegas Sands website?
No.
They had
What
like
did it-
death to the president or death to Israel or something like that. Did they deface it?
They defaced it, and then on top of that, they had the a scrolling list of every employee's name, date of birth, and social security number, just scrolling.
No way. Oh, that's rough. That is
Yeah.
rough.
I will have
That
to say
was-
that Iran didn't come through as hard as the people that attacked MGM and Caesars. I think that's far worse.
It could be because Iran attacked Sands not for financial reasons, but for political reasons, and Alf V is attacking MGM and Caesars for financial reasons. They want to get a big payday.
I think Alv got lucky, man. I mean, no, I think they shorted themselves. I think they could have gotten a lot more than 15 million. I think they should have started at like the 100 million and backed into it. I mean, like for every day they were down, it was probably costing them tens of millions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That and releasing the data, so the player data is immensely valuable, especially to other casinos as well. It's like, well, who's on, who's a loyalty member there? Who's the top tier? What are their preferences? What do they like? And it'd be easy for casinos to steal each other's high rollers. And that's another story. I forget what year it was. It might have been in the mid 2010s where a casino high roller list got stolen through a smart thermostat that was in their aquarium. So the aquarium had a Wi-Fi connected thermostat. Somebody hacked into the thermostat. The thermostat was connected to the corporate network. They were able to download the list of high roller players for that as well. So again, they did not learn proper network segmentation, device segmentation since then.
Like, you know what I really want to see is like Alf V go after and find out, I don't know, like the Epstein client list, like that. Like I would
Something
follow
useful for a change.
I would follow that thread, and I'd be rooting for people, but probably not the ones you'd be thinking about. So I'd be like, let's go, Alf V. You guys are doing the Lord's work.
Over the next few weeks, we should hopefully get a nice write-up. I'm sure Mandiant is in there right now, combing through all their systems. We'll get a nice write-up of exactly what happened. I mean, I think we're putting the pieces together already. Social engineering, somebody's account, they logged in, lateral movement. We've seen this time and time and time again. I don't think there's going to be anything new or novel about it. It's just a very large company that fell victim to a very classic attack.
Is there something they could have done at a host level to prevent the ransomware from being deployed? Like, shouldn't like CrowdStrike be running on these things? Be like, oh crap, that's ransomware. You can't do that. Or do you think they own that too, and they were able just to whitelist that as a benign process and let it go?
I mean, it depends. It depends. EDR, CrowdStrike Sentinel-1, any of those, they should pick up on it. Even if you're running a benign process like LSAS or AD Discover, if it's out of context or if it's on a user that normally doesn't do it, then it should have been throwing up alerts like crazy. So either it was, and it was in auditing mode, not prevent mode, and it was throwing up alerts and no one did anything about it, or it wasn't configured properly, which is the more likely case. Or they didn't have it.
You know the biggest outcome here? Both MGM and Caesar are going to have state-of-the-art SOC in every single vendor in there.
After this?
Helping them moving forward after this, yeah.
After this, yeah.
Security's going to have a big old line budget of making sure we take care of things.
Yeah, I'm sure the SEC, our Securities and Exchange Commission, is going to require it now.
I'm still blown away. I is interesting about MGM is, and like what we know about them not paying. I want to really know why Caesars just paid it. I want to understand that.
It probably calculated downtime, right? Like, we're going to lose millions per day. Let's just pay it.
It's
Be
a
done.
business
MGM could do the
decision.
same thing, right?
And then we'll go after it later on, right? I mean, yeah.
13 billion divided by 165 or 11, but you know what I mean? Like we can get there.
Risk reward. They're just lucky that they got unlocked, right? In that whole scenario, that they just didn't get taken for more after the ransom was paid.
Yeah, that's the risk the FBI says. Just because you paid someone, number one, they might not honor their word. They might leak the data and ransom you anyway. Or number two, they might come back for more, just like blackmail. Once they know you'll pay, we'll just keep coming back for more and more. But
do you think they find anything interesting in there? Like, oh, hey, Jared from Subway was here. I'm like, oh crap, what was he up to?
Like Epstein's list. Epstein's list. Treasure Island.
A very
Treasure
wealthy
Island.
high roller did not want their data getting leaked that they've been staying at this particular hotel.
So that's why they named the place Treasure Island.
Instead of Epstein's Island.
Yeah.
But like, so let's say it is like player data. Like what are you gonna see in there? Like, hey, that one dude spent $11 million. Like, well, that's a lot of money, but I don't know that anyone cares. Like, what would be in that player data that would be so like damning that if actually leaked, or is it just more of like your stuff is leaked and so they're a high roller, they're gonna go spend their money somewhere else now?
Well, think about it. Some people want that stuff private, right?
Yeah, exactly. That could be it. That like this guy, famous person, he's a degenerate gambler. Look at how much he spent at the casino, or how much he lost at this casino, and brand reputation, their client reputation.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that, right? Like, I don't get it. But then pretend it was Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods. You're like, that's gonna suck if you're that person, right? You have like, well, Tiger not so much anymore, but you have that squeaky clean image, right? That you're trying to uphold and maintain, and it turns out you are that degenerate. Like, that'd be pretty wild. So, all right, I get it. You turned me.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a business decision. I heard some commentary, some of the talking heads, they said, why don't we just ban ransomware payments? Why don't we just force people to back up their data and have better security? And it's like, yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Like, we talked about it before, but companies like Garmin, that they make GPS watches, GPS nav systems, they would not exist if we banned ransomware payments, because they said, we don't have backups. The only way we're ever going to stay in business is to pay the ransom. And in cases like that, yeah, that's the only way that they can survive. And we've sanctioned some of the worst groups like Evil Corp and now anybody coming from Russia. That's really the most we can do. But if we completely ban ransomware payments, that's not the answer. They're still gonna go out there and ransom things. Yes, it sucks that they're being rewarded for their evil deeds, but what's the alternative?
We're encouraging poor behavior. It's gonna happen again. How long? Will it be 9 years? We'll see.
All right, I think we've beaten this topic to death. I guarantee this is not the last time we're going to talk about this, so there'll be plenty more as more news comes out. But Alex, we have probably time for one more topic. So for our second topic, smartphone makers Apple and Google are finally recognizing the dangers of so-called cell site simulators, also known as IMSI catchers, or their codename Stingrays. These devices are tools used by law enforcement and governments to use to track the locations of phones, intercept communications, spy on people, or even install malware. Here in the United States, the law enforcement agency, the U.S. Marshal Service, who is tasked with tracking down fugitives from justice, so these are people that are running away from the law and we have an interest in getting them back, they've employed these Stingray devices to help locate people. If the Marshal Service can track down a general location where a fugitive may be hiding and they have the serial number to their cell phone, they can set up a fake cell phone tower and wait for the fugitive's phone to connect to it. At that point, they can precisely locate the fugitive or passively eavesdrop on their communications. One common factor these cell site simulators have in common is that they all operate on the antiquated 2G band. So think of the very first iPhone. The data band it used was the 2G band. In 2021, Google released an optional feature for Android to turn off the ability to connect to 2G cell sites. And Apple announced that in the just released iOS 17, iPhones will not connect to these insecure 2G mobile towers if their phone is in lockdown mode. Samsung hates user privacy, so they removed that feature from their version of Android.
Yeah, Samsung sucks. Just wanted to make sure everyone knows that. Pretty interesting. How long until you start to see 3G and 4G and 5G type of things? Yeah, like you wonder if they just programmatically put a backdoor into all of those things. That way they can start to do the eavesdropping. And I remember Stingray from back in the day. I don't know why. What was the big story around Stingray? Do you remember?
There's a pretty famous story. There's a TV show about it, and there's a Darknet Diaries episode about it. I think he was in identity theft. He did a lot of tax fraud, like millions of dollars in tax fraud. And the way that the Marshal Service tracked him was through a Stingray. He had a Verizon Air card in his laptop, and they got the serial number of that air card, and I guess they subpoenaed Verizon, and Verizon's like, well, he's in this 3-block radius. We don't know where he is. They triangulated to like a 3-block radius, and it's very dense apartment, so there's like 900 apartments they would have had to search. So they used the Stingray, narrowed it down to like a building, narrowed it down to a floor, and then waited for the guy to come out to eat lunch, and then they grabbed him.
You heard it here first. Don't eat lunch out. Uber Eats, have it delivered, drop it off at the door. You'll go scot-free. They'll never see it coming.
And carry your burner phone with you. So.
Hey, yet another reason to be running a lockdown mode, guys. Just default security. Yeah. I love it.
Reasons are piling up for sure.
Yeah. So I gotta ask, aside from this, how has lockdown mode affected you at all in the last, I think you've been doing it over a year now, right?
Yeah, with iOS 16.
The only thing I miss is when I'm doing like a OTP that comes in like as a text message. You know, like how when you're in the app, it just shows up and you do it. I have to...
Yeah, it scrapes it, yeah.
Yeah. I have to go over to the text message or whatever it is, copy it, and paste it in. So that's probably the only thing I miss.
Okay.
Then I think I've had some issues on Southwest Wi-Fi. Like I couldn't watch movies. And I know Chris is like, good. Download it first. I'm like, well, not everyone works part-time like you, Chris. Some of us have real jobs where we have to actually do stuff.
It's the Safari JIT engine is what I'm guessing, because it's hugely exploited, the just-in-time JavaScript engine. So they turn that off on Safari.
But now I download shows on Netflix. Been watching Suits lately. Pretty good. I'm not going to lie.
Nice. And
Season 3, episode 10. Don't ruin it for me.
And for the record, the 2G band is not in use anywhere in the United States. And I think the 3G band is also been deprecated for all the major carriers except T-Mobile. So there really is no legitimate use for 2G in the US. Some of the developing world still might have some legacy 2G stuff. But other than that, turn that crap off. You don't need it. And it's another example of attack surface. If you don't need it, turn it off or uninstall it.
So that actually surprises me. I've been out in the middle of nowhere, and the only thing less than 2G is Edge, and every once in a while I'll fall back to an Edge device.
Are you on T-Mobile?
No, AT&T. But they're slutty. They sleep with all the internet or the cell phone carriers. I'm sure there's some sort of weird agreement.
Yeah, I think for this particular 2G band, I believe, I'll check the article again, but I believe they said no one in the U.S. uses this anymore. And I actually remember this because my old car, my Ford, had a 2G modem in it for the cell connectivity to pair with my phone. And they said, yep, they're deprecating 2G. Come in, bring in your car. We'll put a 3G modem on it. And then when 3G got deprecated, like, yep, bring your car in. We'll put an LTE modem on it.
Do you still have that car?
Funny.
No, I sold it when I got the Tesla.
I'll tell you what, I feel like the whole, like, we're going from Edge to 2G. And I remember, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so fast. I'm like, man, the internet still sucks. And then it was like 2G to 3G. Again, this thing still sucks. And now we're on 5G. And I'm like, I've never been wowed ever. I'm just like, whatever.
Really?
Theoretical, I can do stuff. But I do a speed test, never going to see anything that's that amazing.
I like over 100 megs. I'm like 200 sometimes.
Yeah, but shouldn't it? What's the top speed of 5G?
That's gigabit, wireless gigabit.
Yeah.
The theoretical.
And you're getting a fraction of it. And you're like, wow. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
well, it's better than the 640K that I had with 2G.
It is. It's just not that great, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when it gets kind of dense, populated areas. And Chris, you guys can't see this, but he's recording this stupid thing on Zoom, and he names us all the time, whatever he wants. And he makes it to where we can't change our name on here. So Glenn is iPhone 8. I'm iPhone 14 Pro Max, but he doesn't put the Pro Max on there. And then Chris is straight up lying. His name is the iPhone 15 Pro Max, but he's rocking the 13 right now. It's not until Friday you get your phone, you fraud. Get the hell out of my office.
True. By the time this podcast releases, I will likely have my phone unless something catastrophic happens.
There's nothing wrong with an iPhone 8.
No, there's not. I am sure until Chris is gonna have to deal with this whole USB-C problem. I'm just gonna keep the next 5 years not gonna be an issue. I'm gonna swap out batteries and call it a day.
I don't consider it a problem. My laptop charges with C, my iPad charges with C, my Steam Deck charges with C. This stuff. I have fewer items that will charge with Lightning. So my AirPods Max, my
your
AirPods
Steam
Pro.
Deck charges with C?
Yeah.
What do you mean it charges? There's no battery in the Steam Deck.
There is. It's a portable gaming device.
It's like, is it Bluetooth enabled?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. The one that I have as well?
No. You're thinking of a Stream Deck. Mine is a Steam Deck, which is a portable gaming machine.
You know, I did misunderstand what you said there. Now I understand it.
I can see why you're confused.
I was like, damn, man, I have like a 20-foot cable for my Stream Deck. And it's like, I'm always tripping over it. Freaking wireless this whole time. I didn't even know, but it's not. All right.
So, I mean, basically,
and my flipper charged with USB-C.
Yeah, but that Steam Deck is just like what do you call that? Like a PC, right? A portable PC. That's all it is.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Meant for gaming. Yeah. So I'm gonna have fewer devices running on Lightning. So I'm gonna have to carry a Lightning just to charge my AirPods until I replace those.
Get a new AirPod. What's wrong with you? Just
Eventually.
replace them all at one time.
Eventually.
Chris is not made out of money like you, Glenn.
Yeah, I know we don't have that Glen Island money.
That's funny.
Hi, I have my island device here. It sounds like it would do zero trust, but it doesn't.
Whoa.
Because, you know, the user's off in its own little island. Just kidding. We love island.
I'll say something. I'll save it for later.
Oh, don't worry. I think I know what you're going to say. And I'm already aware that you're there, baby. And I'm going to take that deal from you. I'm going to sweep it. They're not going to know what the hell happened to him. And they'll be like, we didn't need to buy Island. We just went with Zscaler.
All right, since we are out of time, the other two topics we would have gotten to. First topic, lab-grown meat can be halal and kosher since no animals are killed to make it, according to scholars. And our last topic would have been an $80 million F-35 jet fighter just went missing over the state of South Carolina, and the U.S. government is begging people to tell them where it landed eventually.
I thought they saw that guy that was an interview that he was talking about. He was in the bathroom taking a shat.
No, he's
Taking
taking
a shave.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. I'm taking a shave, but I'm going to start.
Yeah. I think he was looking and he heard it, and I think he changed it like at that last minute when he crossed his eyes. He was like, "Hey, this is on public TV. I better say shave."
Taking a shave.
Yeah.
Well, our tax dollars at work, fellas.
Yeah. F-35 crashing, and they don't know where it's at in the Carolinas. That's
The
pretty
transponder mysteriously stopped working, so don't be surprised if in a week it shows up in Ukraine.
amazing. Yeah. Could be.
Well, we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week. This week, Brian's up.
I'm hoping you'll keep this one, but we'll see. What is worse than ants in your pants?
What's that?
What is
Uncles.
What? Is that our proper dad joke?
You don't get it? Like ants, like ANTS, but it's a play on words because then you're saying uncles. You're like, oh, wait a second. That is worse.
I think that's worse than my joke last week. Come on, Brian.
Yeah, someone at home's laughing.
I actually have it in my notes here. I said, I hope you make up for the stinker that Glenn dropped on us last week.
I don't think he did. Yeah, wah.
We'll let the audience decide, guys.
There you go.
Well, if we have a guest next week, they'll have to both outshine you both, which you already set the bar pretty low already, just saying.
Between the two of us, thanks, Chris.
All right, so in the efforts of, I felt like you guys were going to crap on my joke, or at least edit it out. So here's one that's family safe. What generation does Forrest Gump belong to?
What?
Gen A.
All right, that was a good one.
There you go, Gen A.
All right.
All right. There we go.
You redeemed yourself, Brian.
I'm here for you, buddy.
Coming in clutch with the backup. All right, to wrap things up, Las Vegas is under siege. Apple and Google are taking fake cell sites more seriously. The US government wants your help in finding our 5th generation fighter. And plant-based meat is halal and kosher. That's all I have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank all our listeners and subscribers who rated us 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. My co-hosts Brian Deitch and Glenn Medina. I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week, and as always, have a nice day.
Bye, Felicia.